The storm had rolled in off the Atlantic without warning, gray clouds piling on top of each other like an advancing army. Thunder grumbled low over Fort Hanover, a coastal military installation that had long outlived its glory days. The concrete buildings were weathered, streaked with salt and wind, the kind of place where history lingered in the corners like ghosts. Soldiers moved briskly through the rain, boots slapping puddles, shoulders hunched against the cold. Colonel Nathan Cole stood under the overhang outside headquarters, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the airfield below. He was a man whose composure had made him a legend during 2 decades of service, but that evening, even his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the radio in his grip. "Sir," Captain Lara Voss said quietly beside him, "communications from command are still garbled. The storm's interfering." Cole nodded but didn't answer. He had a feeling the weather wasn't the only thing clouding their systems. For the past week, something had been off. Subtle disruptions in the base's network, strange delays in supply shipments, and last night's power outage that had left half the radar screens dead for hours. The colonel's instincts had always been sharp. He'd been trained to notice what didn't fit the one man walking against the crowd, the too quiet radio frequency. And right now, everything about Fort Hanover didn't fit. When a shout came from the hangar across the tarmac, Cole's head snapped toward it. 2 MPs were wrestling with a technician, dragging him through the rain. The man's face was pale, his uniform soaked. "Caught him near the comms tower, sir," one of the MPs shouted as they approached. He was trying to reroute power manually. Cole's eyes narrowed. "Name?" "Sergeant Miller, sir." "Cyber Division." Miller was shaking his head violently. "It wasn't what it looked like." "You don't understand. There's a code buried in the system, something no one's supposed to touch." Cole's voice cut through the rain. "Then you should have come to me." "I tried." "But it's sir, it's embedded in the emergency command protocols. It's old, a World War II old. Someone's reactivating it." Before Cole could reply, lightning cracked overhead, close enough to make the hangar doors vibrate. The radio in his hand burst to life with static and a faint, distorted voice. "A broken bar. Project Sentinel. A broken bar. Authorization key. A broken bar. Condition rate. A broken bar." The voice died. Cole stared at the radio, rain dripping from his hair onto the device. No one on base used the term Project Sentinel. Not anymore. It was one of those programs that had been buried decades ago, classified beyond reach, erased from every modern system. "Get him to the brig," Cole said finally, turning away, "and lock down communications. I want every channel scrubbed and monitored." Captain Voss hesitated. "See, a broken bar. If what he said is true, then we've got a problem buried deeper than any of us realize." By nightfall, the storm had worsened. Power flickered in and out across the base. The old generator groaned like a dying beast, coughing light into the corridors. Cole stood in the command center, surrounded by glowing monitors and nervous faces. The big screen at the front of the room showed the radar grid, a green sweep across a map of the coast. Every few seconds, a blip appeared and vanished, but one remained stationary, just beyond the perimeter of Fort Hanover. "Unidentified transmission source," Voss reported, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "No transponder ID. Could be a drone relay, or a broken bar, or a signal beacon." Cole finished grimly. The colonel rubbed his temple. "Pull the old archives. Anything referencing Project Sentinel, that's restricted even from command-level clearance, sir." "Then override it." Voss hesitated only a moment before nodding. The base's eye assistant chimed softly. "A authorization invalid. Sentinel files locked under Command Omega Black." The words made the air in the room drop a degree colder. Omega Black. It was a code no one had heard spoken aloud in 50 years. Cole remembered hearing about it once, long ago. His father, also a soldier, had mentioned it in a whisper before taking another drink and saying, that code ended wars before they began, and nearly ended us all. Cole's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp bang from the corridor. The door opened, and an MP stepped in. "Sir, the janitor, Mr. Graveza is insisting he speak with you. Says it's urgent." Cole frowned. "The janitor?" "Yes, sir. He says he remembers the last time Sentinel stirred." The colonel exchanged a look with Voss, then nodded. "Bring him in." The man who shuffled into the command center looked as though he belonged to another century. His hair was thin and white, his back slightly stooped, a mop handle still clutched in one gnarled hand, but his eyes sharp, blue, unblinking, cut through the room with a kind of authority that no one expected from someone in a janitor's uniform. He gave a brief nod to the colonel. "Evening, sir." "Mr. Graves," Cole began carefully, "you said you had something important." Graves's gaze drifted to the radar screen. "That beacon out there, broken bar, you don't want to touch it." Cole crossed his arms. "And why's that?" "Because that's what we built it for, to make people touch it, and once they do, it triggers the failsafe." Silence fell like a hammer. "Failsafe?" Voss asked. "You mean a broken bar, a weapon?" Graves chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "No, ma'am, not a weapon, a call sign." Cole's brow furrowed. "Explain." The old man leaned against his mop handle, as if drawing from its strength. "Back in '58, I wasn't a janitor. I was a signals technician, worked under a program called Sentinel. It was a contingency network designed to take control of strategic systems if enemy infiltration ever compromised command. But after the Cuban crisis, they buried it. Too powerful, too autonomous." Cole studied him. "So why is it reactivating now?" "Because someone's trying to wake it up, and once it's awake, it doesn't care who gave the order, it just obeys the last one it remembers." The colonel's stomach sank. "And that was?" Graves looked up, voice suddenly flat and cold. "Condition red, Counter-Strike authorization." The room erupted in murmurs. Cole silenced them with a raised hand. "You're saying this base could launch a strike?" "Not could," Graves said. "Will, unless you issue the abort code." "And what's the abort code?" The old man smiled faintly. "That's the problem, Colonel. Only one person ever had IDA, the original commanding officer, and he's been dead 50 years. Cole exhaled slowly. The room felt smaller with every word. "So we're sitting on a system that thinks we're still at war." "Exactly." Voss turned to the terminal. "If we can locate the central relay, we might shut it down physically." Graves shook his head. "You'll never reach it in time. The relay's buried under Hangar 12. They sealed it in concrete after Sentinel was mothballed. You'd need to blow the floor open." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then we blow it." But before the team could move, the base siren screamed to life, a shrill, rising, relentless. On the radar, the beacon outside the perimeter began pulsing brighter. Then another appeared beside it. Then two more. Voss's voice wavered. "Sir, we're picking up multiple inbound drone as automated military models, pre-70s designa, but they broken bar, they're carrying nuclear signatures." Cole's heart pounded. "How is that possible?" "Sentinel's remote warheads," Graves said quietly. "It's calling them home." Outside, the rain had become a torrent. Soldiers ran across the flooded tarmac, trying to seal doors and cut power lines. The air buzzed with electricity and fear. Cole stormed out into the chaos, radio pressed to his mouth. "This is Colonel Nathan Cole, commanding Fort Hanover. All personnel initiate evacuation protocol. I repeat, evacuate immediately." But the radio only hissed back static. Every system on base had gone dark except one. From the central tower, a single light blinked red, steady and unyielding. "Controls offline," Voss shouted over the wind. "Sentinel's overriding everything." Graves appeared beside them, clutching a small, dented keycard. "Maybe not everything. This card opens the old command vault. It's where they stored the original code tapes." Cole took it. "Show me." They made their way through the lower corridors, flashlights cutting narrow paths through the dark. The hum of the generator faded behind them, replaced by a deeper sound of metal grinding somewhere below. When they reached the vault door, Cole could feel the air vibrating faintly, as though the base itself were breathing. The old man swiped the keycard, and the lock clicked open with surprising ease. Inside were racks of ancient computers, their screens glowing a ghostly green. Tape reels spun slowly, as though time itself had resumed for them. Across the largest terminal, a line of text blinked. "Command, awaiting verification." Cole stepped forward. "If the abort code doesn't exist anymore, what are we verifying?" Graves hesitated. "The only thing Sentinel still recognized as to voice authority." "Whose voice?" "The original commanding officer's." Cole stared. "You mean General Whitaker?" Graves nodded. "He recorded one phrase that could override Sentinel if it ever went rogue, but it was never tested." Voss frowned. So we just a broken bar play his voice? Graves shook his head. You'd need to replicate his command frequency. Every voice has a specific modulation signature. If you're off by a fraction, Sentinel won't just ignore it, it'll treat it as a hostile intrusion. Cole rubbed his face. Then we're out of time. But Graves's eyes suddenly narrowed. Not necessarily. He turned to Cole. You said your father served here once, didn't you? Cole blinked. Yes, briefly, before I was born. Graves smiled sadly. Your father was Whitaker's communications officer. Their voices were nearly identical. That might be enough. The colonel hesitated. You're suggesting I try to mimic a general from half a century ago? I'm suggesting it's the only chance you've got. Outside, the sky glowed faintly red from distant flashes. The incoming drones were less than 10 miles away. The base speakers crackled to life with a cold, synthetic voice. A condition red confirmed. Target acquisition complete. Counterstrike in T-10 minutes. Cole stepped to the terminal. Graves, patch me into the vocal input channel. The old man nodded, his hands moving deftly across the controls. When the prompt flashes, speak clearly, and pray Sentinel still remembers loyalty. The screen flickered. A authorization required. Identify. Cole inhaled, squared his shoulders, and lowered his voice to a calm, resonant tone. General Arthur Whitaker. Authorization Delta Echo Prime. The machine hesitated. A line of code scrolled rapidly. A voice match partial. Verification required. Cole's throat went dry. He tried again, deeper this time, letting his words fall into the same cadence his father had once used when calling drills. Override Protocol Sentinel 0. This is a direct command. Abort condition red. The console buzzed. A voice modulation within 92%. Error margin exceeds safe threshold. The red light on the tower outside began flashing faster. Damn it, Voss shouted. It's not enough. Cole slammed a fist on the console. Graves, can we boost the match ratio? The old man was already typing. Maybe if we filter it through the analog modulator, it'll distort the tone, but it might mimic the ride decay pattern. Cole nodded. Do it. Graves flipped a switch. The terminal emitted a low hum. Try again, he said. Cole leaned in. Sentinel, this is General Whitaker. Abort. Confirm command authority. The response came almost instantly. A command confirmed. Authorization recognized. Counterstrike suspended. Everyone exhaled at once, but the screen didn't clear. Instead, another line appeared, the one that froze the blood in Cole's veins. A secondary command awaiting verification. Omega Black. Graves's face went pale. It's asking for the final order. What final order? Voss demanded. The one we never gave, Graves whispered. The one that would have shut Sentinel down permanently. Whitaker refused to issue it because it required a live confirmation code via his second-in-command's voice. Cole's eyes widened. My father. Graves nodded. Without that, Sentinel can't deactivate completely. It's still armed, just dormant. Outside, thunder rolled again. The red light slowed but didn't stop. Cole stared at the console, memories flashing through his mind. His father's voice, deep and steady, reciting bedtime stories in the same rhythm he used for radio commands. Cole swallowed hard and whispered, almost to himself, "Dada broken bar, help me out here." He pressed the transmit key once more. Sentinel, he said softly, this is Lieutenant James Cole, confirming Omega Black. Shut it down. There was silence. Then, faintly, a mechanical sigh through the speakers. A dual command verified. System termination in progress. The red lights flickered once, then died. The radar screen went dark. When dawn broke, Fort Hanover was quiet except for the drip of rain from the eaves. The air smelled of ozone and wet earth. Cole stood outside the tower, watching a sunlight cut through the thinning clouds. Voss approached, her uniform stained and hair matted from the storm. It's over, she said softly. The drones dropped into the ocean, self-deactivated. Cole nodded. And Sentinel? Gone. Every trace wiped clean. Behind them, the janitor emerged, leaning on his mop like a cane. That's one way to put a ghost to rest, he said. Cole turned. You knew all along, didn't you? That it might come to this. Graves shrugged. I hoped it wouldn't, but machines remember longer than men. The colonel studied him. You served under Whitaker? Yes, sir. Long time ago, when I was young enough to think we could outsmart the world. Cole smiled faintly. You did today, the old man chuckled. No, Colonel. You did. You and your father both. He straightened slowly, his voice gaining a strength that startled even Voss. Then, unexpectedly, he brought his hand to his brow in a crisp salute, a kind of salute reserved for commanders long gone. Cole returned it silently. As Graves lowered his arm, he looked out toward the horizon. Funny thing, he murmured. That code Whitaker used to end Sentinel Omega Black, it wasn't just a shutdown command. It meant something else too. Cole raised an eyebrow. What? Graves smiled, eyes glinting in the new sunlight. It was his way of saying the war's over. Time to stand down. And for the first time in 50 years, Fort Hanover truly did.